says you better get used to sitting around. The days are gonna come when your body starts to hold you down. You best get it in while you're young, 'cause I'm a-telling you, brother, those days are gonna come. So bear down on the throttle and don't let it up till they come around.
So my understanding is that you're kind of all about the third coast, which here in New Zealand, people may not be familiar with that terminology. So it's basically the Gulf Coast that's running along the south of the U.S., around Texas and Louisiana and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
the Gulf of Mexico, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's unique about that musically for you?
Well, it's got a long history of music, everything from, everywhere from Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi down through Texas. A lot of the classic blues guys are from the Gulf Coast. They just ended up in Chicago to find work. Yep. There's plenty of New Orleans artists or Louisiana artists that influence music of America. And in general, it's not even so much about the music of the Gulf Coast that inspires me. Me being from Houston, which is basically on the Gulf Coast. It's about 40 miles from the water, but I grew up living in Houston and spending a lot of time in Galveston, Texas, which is a port city just outside of Houston. Yep. And it's funky and strange, and I think at first glance it's not beautiful. The water's kind of muddy. The architecture is nice, but there's also some pretty rough looking areas. But the people are incredible, and they're fascinating and strange and weird. And I'm one of those weird people. And I grew up around them. And as a kid, I was kind of fearless in meeting and talking to some of these people. They've always just really inspired me. Just the vibe down there, the food, the sort of Cajun influences, being kind of close to Louisiana, and also the Texas influences in the seafood and the water. I don't know, man. It's hard to put your finger on it, but I love it down there, and I like writing about it because it makes me feel nostalgic.
Very good. Why are you feeling nostalgic, or why do you?
Well, it's not. I was chasing nostalgia because a lot of these songs were written during times when I was going through big changes. My dad passed away a little over 6 years ago, and it sort of made this flood of all these. It was just like a domino effect of huge changes happening after that around him. And then in addition to that, just life changes, getting married, having kids. And sometimes that can be really hectic. And some of those changes, it feels like the world's like falling down around you. Yeah. So when I'm going through things like that, I like to inject myself back into familiar areas. And one of those places for me is the Gulf Coast. And so the Gulf Coast exists as sort of a backdrop of positivity throughout the record, amidst songs about change and difficult times. But what I hope comes across as a positive message.
Right. So the album opens with a tune about getting older, doesn't it?
Amen. Amen. Back at it again. Leave me wishing and wondering when this mess is gonna end. Hollering for a sign, and now holler amen.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that certainly makes sense on that one. That's about what I like about Amen is that it's more about like when you come out of these hard times and you start seeing the light on the other side, and you made it and you feel stronger and better for it. And so Amen, 2 verses of that song were written before the pandemic and way before it.
Right.
And as I was searching for songs for the record, to kind of going back in old journals, notes, and voice memos, I came across that one. I was like, well, this one sort of feels right, and then wrote a 3rd verse to it. Right. And I think it was pretty applicable for the time, but part of it was, or most of it was written before the pandemic took hold.
Cool. Now you recorded it in a place called Lockhard, Texas, in a place called The Bunker, which is, I guess,
correct,
producer Bruce Robinson's studio. And very analog, 2-inch tape, the whole bit. So tell me about what that felt like.
Well, it's a true analog studio. There are basically everyone is recording to tape now, but they have devices that can go from the tape into Pro Tools.
Right.
We're not doing that out at the bunker. We're just going straight to tape. We're mixing to the tape, and we're doing everything live. So everything you hear on the record are performances. They're live performances. We overdub some harmonies and some supplemental instruments, but we wanted to really capture musicians playing music and at the same time and together like they used to do. And we kept the takes that had the best vibes. They may not be perfect,
right?
But they are fun, The little imperfections add charm, in my opinion,
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And who are some of the other folks that are playing with you on the record? You got like a core band?
Yeah, man. One of my best friends, Noah Jeffries, plays the fiddles and the mandolins.
Right.
And a guy named Jeff Queen, a really fantastic pedal steel player, drummer named Josh Blue, who hadn't really played with much, but he was super groovy and awesome. Bass player named Bill Whitbeck. He plays with Robert O'Keen, a well-known Texas songwriter, performer.
Yep.
A guy named Scott Davis was a supplemental, like he played all kinds of stuff, electric guitar, played a little bit of mandolin, accordion. Then we got into, I don't want to leave people out. Emily Gimbel played some piano. A guy named Trevor Nealon plays with the Band of Heathens, and some other folks played clavinet and organ and stuff, and some piano as well. And then the Shiny Ribs, Kevin Russell and Alice Spencer and Kelly McQuee, part of the Shiny Ribs, sang a bunch of background vocals. It was really a fantastic group of people. Keith Langford, a drummer for the Shiny Ribs, did some percussion as well. He was in the Gourds with Kevin Russell as well. So it's awesome group of musicians.
And so, I assume the vibe was pretty mellow and chilled, but you tell me. I mean, and kind of were you running the show? Was it Bruce who was doing it? How did communication occur between everybody?
No, I was really nervous at first, so I wasn't running the show. Bruce was running the show, thank God. And the first song we tracked, I think I was singing pretty shy, and wasn't quite giving it what I think I should have been, because I was just a little anxious and nervous. The second song we tracked was Amen, and once that groove kicked in, everybody seemed to really relax, and that's how it was for the rest of the time. And it was really fun. I mean, it took 3 days to do all the tracking.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we worked whenever you don't have Pro Tools to nitpick and do little, annoying little nitpicky perfect things. And when you're not getting everyone individually on their own and everyone's doing it at the same time, you save a lot of time. Yeah. And we were working great together and having fun. So it just went quickly. It really did.
Right. You did a co-write with your bass player Bill on a tune called Slow on the Golf.
Yeah.
Wake me up now, pick me up off the floor. Wake me up now, get me off this floor. I can't stay down here anymore. I've been running for too damn long. Lord, I've been running for too damn long. I'm going back down home where I belong.
That's correct. Bill and I are from close to the same area. He's from LaPorte, Texas, just south of Houston. So I think we got together on that song 5 or 6 years ago, and we wanted to encapsulate all the weird, funky people we meet down on the Gulf Coast have over the years into this one guy who tried to leave but couldn't help it and had to come home.
Gotcha. And the following track, Johnny Law, is that from? I think I read that it's from a film of some sort.
Johnny Law, you cotton picking hassle, Johnny Law. You keep trying to shake me down, I keep shaking you off, oh Johnny Law, yeah Johnny Law.
I wrote Johnny Law for a movie, an independent film called Texas Cotton. Good movie, a great soundtrack. It's got Charlie Crockett, Coulter Wall, Summer Dean, Mike and the Moon Pies. Really fantastic soundtrack. And I sort of stole a lyrical line and a melody from a song that my first cousin wrote 20 years ago. It was kind of like a filler. I was like, well, I'll just put this in here for now and change it.
Yep.
So, but I didn't, because it sounded cool. And so he gets a co-write on that. My cousin gets a co-write on that song.
Good on you.
Yeah, man.
And there is a cover of like a traditional tune called Reuben's Train, which sounds very familiar. I don't know it as Reuben's Train, but I have a feeling it's been through a few iterations over the years, has it?
Well, Reuben had a train, he put it on the track. You could hear that whistle blow 100 miles. Oh me, oh my, you could hear that whistle blow. You could hear that whistle blow 100 miles.
Yeah, definitely. It's a old time number that goes back. I think Elizabeth Cotton's done it. All kinds of people have done it over the years. And it's one of those songs where it's not written down. So, or wasn't. So people would write their own verses and make their own lyrics and adjust the story to their own liking. So I did that myself. I kind of I wrote a verse that made it fit a little bit with the Gulf Coast theme. And I actually brought that song as something I'd bring to the band, because it's not a super difficult song to play. It's really only 2 chords. I thought it'd be a good one to loosen up with and jam on to get to know each other musically. Right. But as we were doing it, it was fun. So we recorded a take of it, of us just jamming basically. And we kept it. It was fun. Right. Yeah.
And speaking of band, are you fronting a band as well as doing your solo thing these days, or is one thing replaced the other?
Well, the band I've been in these last 8 years is Wood and Wire. We're a bluegrass band out of Austin, and we've had a great run. We're not playing right now. I have faith that we may come together and do some stuff eventually, but I'm not sure. So I'm focused on this, and I am going to front this band under my own name if I play with the band. And but I really enjoy playing solo shows, just me too, where I tell stories and, put my foot in my mouth a few times, but try to connect with the audience and have fun with everybody, and I'll play a little claw hammer banjo at those shows and some electric guitar to make it different. And that's really, I think, for any international travel, especially, that's the way I'm going to do it for now. But here in Texas, and if there's some good opportunities outside of anywhere in the US for the full band thing, I'll do that as well.
What kind of interactions do you have with your audience? Do people will like to come up and chew the fat afterwards? What?
I love to interact with people. That's one of the things that's been really hard on me throughout this pandemic. Live streams are fine. And I think they're valuable when you need them, but I love meeting people at shows, chewing the fat with them, hanging out, and during the show. I like when people appropriately and respectfully interact with me from the audience towards the stage. I like to ask people questions if they want to interact. Sometimes that can be really fun, almost like some crowd work at a comedy show, but that, not that kind of a skill, but just interacting with people in the audience, I think can be really fun if it's done the right way. And I'm a super social, pretty extroverted person, and I like to incorporate that into my performing.
Fair enough. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about surfing with you. You have a song called The Surfer, and there's a huge surfing community here in New Zealand, because we're surrounded by water all over the place. So tell me about your surfing experiences and your song of the same thing.
Early morning, she shimmers like a diamond's glimmering, glistening gleam. It's the damnedest thing I ever did see. How that dirty old water sure makes a man clean.
Sure. So I do surf a little bit. I grew up surfing in Texas, which is its own thing. It's certainly not as consistent as New Zealand or Australia, California, or just about anywhere else. But it does happen, and you can longboard here mostly. And there's a town on the Gulf Coast called Freeport, and outside of Freeport, there's a beach called Surfside Beach where, for some reason, the way the bottom is, there's more consistent, easygoing waves.
Right.
So I've been going down there since I was a kid. And
Yeah.
last August 2020, I was down the coast a lot, and I was in Freeport, and I was in Surfside, and I saw this guy who I'd seen there for many years, but I never talked to him. He was much older than me, but seemingly in good shape. But I saw him just sitting in his truck, and I just went up and talked to him, and he told me his life story about how he couldn't surf anymore because he had a hip replacement,
right.
and his hands were messed up from laying tile for decades. And told me stories about going down to South Padre Island, which is the southernmost coastal part of Texas and basically Mexico.
Right.
And, and we just hung out for 20 or 30 minutes, and he told me a bunch of stories, and then I actually missed the window where there were good waves, and I went home, or I went to my uncle's place and ended up writing that song about him. So that song's not about me, it's about him. And I'm trying to track him down. I'd love to meet him and show it to him.
Right. So is there kind of a feeling of a community around the scene that you're a part of, or other musicians, other just people that you hang out with? What's up?
In Austin?
Yeah.
In the Austin area? Certainly. Yeah. Yeah. It's
because I've been to Austin a few times, and I've noticed it has grown exponentially over the last maybe 10 years. How has that affected it?
I've been here for 20 years, and it is a literal explosion of people.
Right.
I still love it. There's still a really strong music community. I'm certainly concerned that it's going to get too expensive for musicians to live here.
Yeah.
But there's little miniature scenes for sure. There's a somewhat of a bluegrass scene, somewhat of a folk scene, whatever. But the truth is, it's all just the music scene. Yep. And you can go to a show of a night of Austin music of 3 or 4 bands, and they'll all be completely different.
Yeah.
And we may not all know each other, but we kind of all know of each other. And so there's just a really strong sense of mutual respect. It's not like Nashville in that there's not much of a really strong, music industry as far as labels and stuff like that goes. But
everybody's hustling in Nashville, aren't they?
Sure. And by the way, I love Nashville. I go there often. I think it's a fantastic
it's
place.
Just a different thing.
But it is a different thing. And I think that the scene is a little bit different. There's some really strong lines like this is the bluegrass scene, this is this scene, or whatever. But I love it here. I'm not leaving. My roots are deep here. My family's close by. And, I'm one of the few people I rarely meet people in Austin anymore that are actually from Texas, much less Austin. Right. So, I love being sort of a native Texan here, and this is where I'm going to be forever.
Cool. Excellent. Well, hopefully you can come down here and visit sometime and play for us. That would be awesome. And try
I'll tell you what, Marty, if you know somewhere that I can come and play, I'll do it, dude. I would love to come to that area. I really would.
Well, sadly, we're all locked down at the moment, but hopefully things will open up soon. So
it'll happen, man. It'll happen.
Cool. Yeah. And what are you thinking of next musically? Are you thinking of anything, or you just kind of got the new album on your mind?
Well, yeah, it's hard for me to write in the middle of these, promotional times. Yep. I haven't written a song in about a year. That's normal for me. I don't write that often. So it's, I have a meeting on Monday. We're going to go back into the bunker in November to do a totally solo live record. Cool. We're going to sell 30 tickets or so to a performance where I'll just play by myself for 30 people for an hour or so and grab the best 40 minutes and make a live record out of it.
Sounds like a
plan. I want to showcase, the thing I do alone as well.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, and then on top of that, I've just recently started feeling those new melodies starting to come back into my head. And when I start feeling those times come, I'm going to buckle down real hard.
Good on you. Well, thank you for spending time with me and telling me all about it. Love hearing the records.
Anytime.
Yeah. So
anytime, Marty, you let me know anytime. I'll come back on. And if you hear of anything, I can make it to once things open up. I'll be there, dude. I
Because
really
we
will.
got quite the Americana scene here in New Zealand.
That's great.
We have an Americana fest that happens. Well, didn't happen this year, but we usually have everybody come down from the States and play. So yeah, there's plenty of it happening. So it would be very cool.
I'll do my best, man.
Well, have a great day. Thank you very much.
Take care, Marty. Bye.
Bye-bye.